Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I want to say this is like really perfect. I actually just put the paper down here. You see the paper, and I put the paper on the window by mistake. I mean, if I take the paper off, you can see the light somehow disappears. When I put the paper back on, it makes it brighter. Can you believe things like this actually can make good content? So as you can see, it's during the afternoon. It's Sunday. It's the last Sunday of the month of September, which means that I am kicking off this month. It's been really busy, really fast-paced. This is why I like to be busy. When you make videos, you make some prayers, you do some readings, you do the research, you're writing, you're studying, time goes really fast. And same thing with the job. Like, I like the job too fast. When I tell people that I've been in the US for 9 years, they think like, oh my god, how can you spend 9 years? Like, it's a lot, but to me it's been like a day because I've been doing things fast paced. So today I woke up in the morning earlier. I actually wake up like 7:30. I was supposed to take a shower, go pick up a friend for soccer, but I woke up at 7:30. I went back to bed and I woke up at 7:50. So very unusual. I usually don't go back to bed, but it was fascinating that I was going back to bed. So anyways, today I went to a discussion, and things that we learned. It was fascinating to me that I needed to share this in this video. And I like to connect everything to economics, causality, and all those things. But one of the things that we learned today that was very interesting to me, it's been interesting for a while, is this paper. This paper it talks about the neuroplasticity. I took psychology before in my community college. This is like 5 years ago. And social psychology, how people behave, how people think, the decisions that people make. It fascinates me, and I try to connect those dots to the reality, especially with economics. So today I want to read some of the things that I saw, that I learned, that I think they are crucial in understanding how people make economic decisions. This week, like part of what I do in class is understanding the mechanical parts behind the economic decisions, whether from the institutions to nations to individuals, right? The resources, the consumptions, and then we look at the micro level, from individual consumptions to the benefits, the cost, and those things do really fascinates me, and I think fascinates everybody out there. But the things that we don't normally see in economics is the influence behind the brain. We can map, like right now today I have today I have a homework that I need to do, which is around something that I've shared before. It's around the policies and the anti-competition policies that people create. My beard is like shining really fast. I'm looking like an old guy, but these ideas, these mathematical terms, the human capital, the technologies and educations, policies and math and physics, monetary values, monetary variabilities, material supply chain, like all these things mathematically make sense because we can use math to map them out and sort of understand the concept behind it. But what we don't know is how these humans actually think, like how they make decisions. Like why would people from the Western nations consume so much that they have to develop the idea of production? You know, like they have to increase production. But then on the other hand, you have other nations like China, for instance, which does not consume as much, but is driven by production. You know, from back in before 1980s, China was not a production state, you know, but they developed the concept of production. At first, it was fake. There's actually a news that came out where the Communist Party, with Chairman Mao, they enforced their own people to produce a lot of agriculture, and because of so much pressure from the top government, the local institutions created fake statistics that the production, the growth of food was too high. So the government came out and announced that China has so much food than they can have, than they do, and they stopped producing, and China was hit with massive starvations and the hunger and all those things. They had actually huge crisis on this, so because of the fake statistics. But then after that, now I don't know what China did. I never really got involved into politics, but I'm pretty sure they may have learned a lesson. They learned, you know, we have the hunger, we have the passion to produce more stuff than we need, but we don't have the capacity to produce those things because of the pressure. Now we are not meeting the goals or the KPIs. What can we do to meet the KPIs? So they started actually putting into practice, going from the top government to the bottom level of the individual. And they started supporting the local level, the local manufacturing, understanding the issues. Is it supply chain? Is it the materials? Is it the technology? Is it like, so they started supporting the local production, and then they started getting the deals, like the people from outside. They started supporting the local labor, and just like that, China developed pretty fast. But in the Western world, the concept has always been people want something, and because they want something and there's no way they can find it, so they produce it. So consumption, the need for consumption creates people to consume, but when they want to consume, they are forced to produce. All right, that has been the very old century concept in the Western world. And China came in and it was like, this is not how they think. For them, they don't consume. This is what Trump is pushing on China. Chinese, they don't consume. Chinese, they don't buy things. You will barely see Chinese driving Ferrari. You will barely see Chinese having big mansions. You will barely see Chinese having so much money. Chinese are not the richest people in the world, but they are the most producer. Everything they do it 100%. Right? They produce things. They don't care about quality. They don't care about quality. They care about quantity. But then you have countries like in Africa, where the Africans, they want to consume. Like every single African wants a car, wants a house, they want education, energy, knowledge, and all those things. But they're not driven to produce. Like they can't produce, but they want to consume, but they can't produce. So what could be the problem, right? And in economics, we can go through these things. We can do the mapping, we can do the mathematical formula, we can blame the government, we can blame people, we can blame educations. But psychologists, the field that we tend to ignore, personally, I'm not a big fan of psychology. I think it's too theoretical, and it doesn't really align with the real world and stuff like that. But this paper tells us how humans think, and I'm gonna read the first paragraph. I think, as I have a few minutes to end this video, the first paragraph says, one of the most exciting breakthrough in brain science in the past century is the discovery that the brain has an innate power to change, adapt, restructure itself in response to its environment. This is known as neuroplasticity. So our brain is capable of adapting, and I know this from, I already know this from the Western country, like Western people, like white people, back in the day, they did not consume. They were not consuming, but once they, when they drawn into the idea of consumption, right? They started thinking we need more and more and more stuff, and that thinking is what led them to discover other areas, like explore and colonize, right? They start getting the idea of, do we need more food? Do we need more machines? Do we need more technology? Do we need more knowledge? Do we need more stuff? And that helped them out. It did help them succeed for a while. To this day, they're still successful. But then China changed the concept. China came up and said, we don't want to consume, but we want to produce. We rather have a gigantic inventory of cars in a road that is not being purchased, but at least we know we have it. In fact, China has actually had so many things that they throw away, like cars, houses that don't have anybody to live in them, right? So they don't consume because they don't buy for themselves. They just buy in the hope that somebody's gonna buy those things. And all they did was to change their mindset. At first, they were pushed to do it and it didn't work, but after that they learned a mistake and they kept pushing again. And today, as we know, from 2013, the country has produced a lot. Like if you want to make any car, and you go to China, as long as you have the money, you don't even need that much money, they will mass produce things for you. And this concept cannot apply to another country like in Africa. And in economics, we've been thinking, when we impose all these ideas, like, we should make them consume, or we should make them produce more things, or we should balance consumption and production, or we should give them more investments, we should give them more education, give them more aid, provide them more security, or all these concepts, they actually, when you think about it, they are being pulled from somewhere else and throw them in there. For example, like when I came in the States, I had to change the way I think, I had to change the things that I do, I had to adapt. So keywords here, the change, adapt, and restructure is based on the environment that you are in. So maybe I've been thinking about this for a while, that the continent of Africa, we needed to develop, we needed to succeed. It's something that everybody across is pretty much like, it's kind of sad, because in other countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, they have technology, they have the things they need, they just lack, they have wars and conflict. But some parts of Africa, there's no wars, there's no conflicts. Like there's no conflict in Rwanda, there's no conflict in Burundi, they had conflict in the past, no conflict in Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, like those areas. But we still don't see the adaptations, we don't see change, we don't see the restructure. What could be the problem? However, these nations are known to have adapted something very important, maybe not important, but something that is crucial. They have adapted the region, like they like every they start, like these 2 weeks I've been arguing with international students from Africa. They are so good at imposing their own religious views. Like they are super passionate about it. Like they talk about God, talk about Jesus, like how he died for our sins. Like nothing wrong with that, but maybe that passion shows that people can actually adapt based on the environment. And when you look at the environment of Africa, is that a lot of things that they have are naturally made. They have natural lakes, there's no fake lakes in Africa, natural trees, natural resources, there is little migrations. The continent has not received as much migrations as the continent. the colonies who went there, they failed to adapt, and all these things sort of connects to this neuroplasticity. So that's it for today, and now 15 minutes of video, and like always, thanks for watching. See you. Ciao ciao.